Well, I'm really excited about this next speaker because, she's going to talk more about mental wellness. I hope that's more on everybody's radar than it was before COVID. I mean, we talked a little bit about this. Before COVID, I don't know in your circles, but in my circles, people were already overwhelmed and stressed out. And then COVID hit, and it just took a lot of people to kind of a code red, status.
The boiling cauldron.
Yeah.
Overflown.
Tipped over. And so that's the tough part. I think the good news is it's on more people's radar now.
Yep.
And once again, we're back to solutions and collaborating on what can we do. The first thing is we got to own it. We got to be aware of it and go, this is a problem. This is a challenge with our kids. I mean, I don't know that mental wellness challenges for kids like depression, anxiety, suicide are not arguably a way bigger problem than COVID. So we'll see as we see some of the effects long term. But really excited. I'll tell you a little bit about Brenda Willson here. She is the Director of Business Development and Educational Outreach for the Cottonwood Creek Behavioral Hospital, Idaho's newest inpatient and outpatient psychiatric facility for ages 12 and up.
Yeah, and when I had the chance to speak to Brenda, it was actually through a connection through the Boise Chamber. So shout out to Paul and his team over there. They connected us, and when I started talking to Brenda, she just exuded that passion, that purpose, and she's like, this is what I do. Like, I live and breathe this. And so when we started talking, she's like, actually, this is probably something on my bucket list that I've been wanting to do. And she's been so excited and hyped up about being here. And so that passion and purpose is contagious. And I'll keep saying that, because it is, because her energy and her excitement got me excited and fired up about doing this and being involved.
Yeah, she's going to wake us up right now. She's a high energy gal. So, yeah. Any other thoughts on her?
Well, let's bring her to the stage. I know she's got a lot to say.
Brenda
she's been excited
Willson.
about this. Brenda.
Thank you so much. That was a fantastic introduction. And they had it absolutely right. When I heard about this opportunity, I'm like, bam, I can actually take this off my list of things to do. Because I do education out in the community all the time. I go to businesses and talk to their HR. I go to behavioral health centers, to counselors, to hospitals, and I educate them about behavioral health. And not only do I do that, but I try to empower them to change the narrative that we have and that we see within our communities, within our nation, and really within the globe, right? Because this is what it's all about, planet Earth. And so in listening to all the people before me, and then thinking about the title of Be the Change for today, I thought, how perfect. So I'm very, very excited to talk with you and to share the story about behavioral health in this area. And I'm going to give you a little clue. I was a school teacher for many years, and so I'm going to do some things to, kind of engage you, because we talk about that a lot, engagement. Well, I want to engage you. I want you guys to remember today. And a way you do that is you participate and you move. So I promise I'm not going to make you do any kind of laps or anything, but I'm going to ask you some questions. And those of you who are online, feel free to answer them as well, because we want you to be a participant in this as well. So I'm going to start the story with the fact that this is the last presentation of the day. And I was thinking to myself, if I'm going to tell the story, you might want to know a little bit about me, and how am I going to frame that? So I thought, oh, there I am. See, that's another thing to remember in this technological age. Whenever you do emojis on your phone, remember, Brenda Willson, behavioral health, be the change. All right, so the question is, when does last equal good? Okay, I'm the last presenter today, so I'm thinking, okay, what are some reasons why it would be fantastic to be last? Well, here's a little bit of I had a brainstorm about this, I guess. And to tell you a little bit about me, I'm a mother of 2 boys, one of which does not want anything to be said about him. I will tell you his name. His name's Gabriel, 18 years old. He even called me while I'm here. You better not share any stories about me. I'm like, I'll just introduce you. So he's very, very shy, very quiet, but amazing, amazing human being with a big heart. My other son, his name's Noah. So here's where you guys come into play. How many of you know about the series, I guess, the reality show, American Ninja Warrior on TV? How many of you have seen that? Okay, now, keep your hands up. if you know that there is a show called American Ninja Warrior Jr. Okay, last question. How do you know, or not how do you know, I just read my thing. The question next is, did you know that there is an adolescent, a child, who actually is from Boise, Idaho, who participated in American Ninja Warrior Jr.? All right, well, guess what? Check it out. There's my son. That's the one who likes to be in the line. Do you have a question, or your hand's still up? Okay. My son loves to be last. He loves to be last when he participates in these obstacles. American Ninja Warrior is all about obstacles. He likes to, when he travels throughout the United States, he likes to watch. He likes to see what other people are doing. He likes to look at the infrastructure of the obstacles. And what he really wants to do is see where the kinks are, you know, where it's kind of difficult and where people are really excelling. And then he is able to modify that so that he can actually excel when he goes on his turn. Now, I will tell you that doesn't always happen. Sometimes he has to go first, so we have to teach him resilience and say not everything happens the way you want. But he loves to be last. Now, for me, for this gave me an opportunity to listen and to really hear the stories that all of you have shared and why it's so incredibly important to be here. And then I heard a word that was used the most throughout all of your presentations. Does anybody have an idea what that word was? Oh, say it loud. Okay, energy was one of them, absolutely. What's another word you heard a lot of? Change, absolutely. If you were to do an analysis on the words that were used during these last 2 days, change has been in almost everybody's, if not everybody's, presentation. Because our job is to be that change. And so it made me really excited and empowered just to even know that I was on the right track with this, right? All of us had the same thing in common, even if we were talking about something completely different. I'm going to talk about sustainability when it comes to behavioral health, mental health, helping our communities. And you might be talking about sustainability in a different context, but for reals, we're all about change and making that difference in this world and using the energy that we all have in order to do it. Okay, so here's another one. I told you I was a school teacher. I also might like you to know I'm a race car driver. I'm an innovator in education. That orange car right there, when we were talking about making sure that we had vocational education in our schools, I was a proponent of that because I believe in making things real, making them applicable to real life. If they're not relatable, if they're not applicable, if they're not authentic, are you going to remember them? No way. So I told you I was a school teacher, and I've taught all grades, K through 12. I've taught workshops at the college level, university level, and I've taught adults. When I was an educator in the public school system, I saw that there was an issue that we were having with the ability to teach kids things that mattered in a way that they would understand. And so I was always trying to tweak stuff. I was the problem child / teacher. I always was going to the principal, I have an idea. And sometimes, just like when we're talking about change and diversity, I was that person, right? I was the one that was always changing things up and wanting to do things different. So I wasn't the one that just always played by the rules, so to speak. Hence, we have a race car on this slide. So what I did is I helped on science committees. I helped create curriculum that was authentic. I helped create the first magnet school, which is a school of choice for the West Ada School District, when it was called the Meridian School District, years and years ago, for arts, so that I could actually help kids learn through the arts, but to make it real life. Then I go to a charter school, and my kiddos were really having a hard time with the STEM stuff. You know, the science, technology, what's E? Engineering, and M for math. Good job. Okay, so they were really having a hard time with that, and they weren't really engaging, and they weren't having a lot of fun, and I'm like, okay, I got to do something about this. So just like thinking about behavioral health, and how can we do things differently to be authentic and to make people excited and engaged, and for them to remember, I did this with the car. I taught grades 4 through 12 how to change spark plugs, how to change their tires, how to change oil. This orange car was blue, rusted, ugly. Had nothing inside. There wasn't a motor. You can see the picture over there, those the older kids working on the motor that they actually put into the car. And then there's one of my younger kiddos from an elementary school working on a carburetor. All of these individuals together all participated and created that car that goes down the track. So then I was also able to take that car after it was done and use it as a way to help kids who are at risk, who they were at risk because they were homeless, because their families had addiction issues or mental health issues, kids who had mental health issues themselves, and it was called Project Kids Quest. And it was one of the most amazing experiences when it comes to making things applicable and actually changing lives of those who are the most vulnerable. And we took this car, taught them about mechanics, went through, it was much quicker. They didn't make the car, they didn't build another one. They got to use this one. And then we took it to the track, and because of liability, I actually had to drive the car. Oh, darn. And these kids actually got to feel a part of something. And when you feel like you're a part of something that's important, and people are excited and giving you that positive praise, your mental outlook changes 100%. So now let's go back to why is it good to be last? Like my son, Noah, I like to be last on the drag strip. Now, this is a straight car, quarter mile, not the circle kind. I like to be last because all the cars have gone before me and laid that rubber on the track. They've made that foundation for me. And then guess what I get to do? I get to go to the staging lane. I get to go and watch the Christmas tree. That's what they call it, to tell us when to go. And I get to slam that gas pedal and boom, down quarter mile track. That's exciting. When I do that, my students get to see how fast the car goes. And my car's not a 14.0. Sometimes it's 14.7. Sometimes it's 13.9 seconds to go down the quarter mile. It also, when you're at the staging lane, you have decimals of how fast you can go with the light, your reaction time. So the way that I think about this is that I was able to teach decimal points to where my students were able to teach other kids older than them and be that person to actually advocate for fun about math. And you know how they did it? Let me tell you about Ms. Wilson's car. I actually understand decimals now. They aced it. So you see, that's success at an educational level. We got parents involved. It was absolutely fun. So I enjoy being last for that, but I also like to show this because it goes to show that the educator in me will never go away, which is why I'm so excited to be here today and share that, you know, we do make a difference in people's lives. Oh, this one's kind of a trick. I should have not shown you this first. So who knows when the best time to buy a car is? Okay, yes, sir. Absolutely. So it's good to be last when you want to buy a car. You go on the last day of the month. Now, what's even better? If you have 12 months to buy a car, when should you buy it? Last month of the year. So that is another reason. There you go. Car ownership, that's a good time to be last. But here's my next question for you. When does last equal not so good? And this is where this little football comes in, which is why I have my chair. So you're going to see this little ball come across every so often, and that means I need your help. I need you guys to help me in telling me when is it not good to be last, because I don't want to be the one that tells all the answers or even the ideas. So I'm going to put the microphone down. Get your catching arm. I am not a football player, even though I did play one on TV. Not really. Okay, you guys ready? So you guys, if you get the ball, you have to answer the question. And then you throw it to somebody else, and then they have to answer it. We'll do it like 3 times. Then you can throw it back to me. And, okay. So, when is it not good to be last? Here we go. Ready? Okay, sporting tournament, you don't want to be last. Good one. Okay, keep going. Writing standards? Oh, don't want to be last doing that. Sprinting, okay. Oh, gotcha. You don't want to be last in the rodeo? Well, no, yeah, who wants to do that? All right, let's keep going. Oh, almost there. Okay, so you want to be first, right? Absolutely. Okay, let's start moving the ball forward. Because believe it or not, I could talk forever. Okay. When's it not so good to be last? Ooh, that's a good one. I'll second that. Okay, I'm going to put the microphone. Oh, we've got another one. All right, your turn. Oh, wow. That's good. You don't want to be the last member of your species. That is oh, no, thank you. See that? Thumbs down. No. Okay, I'm going to put the microphone down so that we can get it moved back to me so that I can share one other reason that it's not so good to be last. Caught it. Thank you. Wow, that worked. All right. Mental health. It is not good to be last when it comes to how we treat mental health disorders. So if you look at this, and because this is a global scale, we're going to start big, our planet, and then we'll drill down to our local area. So mental disorders are the most neglected of the global health problems. Do you guys think that was the case? Truly is, right? We don't want to be last in that. Now, in order to explain this, like I said, we're going to go globally, national. I heard Jason talk a lot about regions. I did leave that out, but I do have a place within one of the slides to talk about our regions in Idaho, and then locally. So global data. We did talk a little bit about you kind of have to know some of the information so they know what you're combating. So here's some of the information. Depression is one of the leading causes of disability. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among 15 to 29-year-olds. Those are young kiddos, young adults. People with severe mental health conditions die prematurely, as much as 2 decades early due to preventable physical conditions. So just think about that, and think about the fact that this is a global epidemic. This affects every single one of us. And despite progress in some of these countries, people with mental health conditions often experience severe human rights violations, discrimination. And the word that I really don't like to use, this is my, I don't like to use this S word, but I'm going to say it for the point, stigma. Now, that's the whole point of today's presentation. A big part of it is breaking down the belief system about what we think about when it comes to behavioral health. And this is just some more you can kind of look at. It just explains that nationally, mental illness can affect anybody. It's not just one group of people. Anyone can have something occur, no matter what, that will affect their mental health. 1 in 4 American adults experiences an episode of mental health illness per year. I will tell you, working in the behavioral health field at an inpatient facility, I can tell you that is absolutely true. And it has increased exponentially within these last couple of years. 4 million children and adolescents in this country suffer from a serious mental disorder. And it's just gotten worse. And mental health disorders account for more disability than any other illness. Now, this is heavy information, but we are here to understand what the information shares and tells us so that we can turn it around and change the narrative. So we have to know, remember, the information in order to make a difference in it. Okay, so here's an example of the adult ranking of 2020. And the 7 majors that made up the adult ranking are there. So you know what they use to determine what this looks like. So states that are ranked 1 to 13 have the lower prevalence of mental health illness. And then the ones that are 39 to 51 are the dark blue. Now look where Idaho is, right? We're like right there. And if you look, Idaho is surrounded by another bunch of big blue states, including Hawaii, that guess what? We're at the end. And we're all surrounded. And that's for adults. Now look for our youth. same thing. Now there's more places within the United States that have this issue with kiddos. But again, you can see that Idaho again is ranked in that. It's not good to be last or even near the end. And you can see that it's that whole little area, right? So you can see there's something going on that's actually making all of this work together, which we don't want it to do that. Okay, so here's some local data. This is kind of important for this area here. According to the National Alliance of Mental Illness, nearly a quarter of Idahoans are living with a mental illness. 6% of those people are living with a serious mental illness like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. And then in addition, Idaho has one of the highest suicide rates in the country. And on average, Idaho's suicide rate is 48% higher than the national rate. So Idaho is not looking good for being last. We need to do something to change this. And again, I'm just explaining this to you so you understand the demographics. So here we are. Idaho rankings. Adult, we rank 49th, and youth, we rank 46th. All right, so here we go. When we were talking earlier about the rural communities, Idaho is actually mostly rural. Most of you already know this. 35 rural communities, 9 urban. Now, the Treasure Valley, we are considered, that's Ada County. We are in Canyon County as well. So we're right now in Canyon County. And Ada County is like Boise, Meridian, Kuna, those areas. So if you look at this, and you remember what we heard yesterday from Ray about our ranchers and our farmers and the rate of suicide going up and what's happening to our rural communities, you're going to see why. So let's look at this. And here's another one. I wish I had prizes I could throw out. So health professional shortages areas in Idaho. Primary care, 95.4% of people are not being served appropriately for primary care. That's like your doctor when you go and you need to get a physical. Dental health, 94%. 94% of the population are not getting the care they need. Now, who can tell me what percentage they think of health professional shortages there are in Idaho? Because it's not 95.4 and it's not 94. Bam! You got it. Check it out. 100%. Now, that's important because when we're talking about working together collectively, and we'll talk some more about this later, there are people who wait after they get discharged from hospitals, psychiatric facilities, PHP, partial hospitalization. They can't get into a counselor for 4 months. Now, what is a person who just got admitted into a psychiatric hospital or behavioral health hospital, and they were there because they had suicide ideations or maybe attempted, and then it's time to go home? You have to have the resources, right? Well, Idaho is not doing a really good job right now at providing those resources. We're trying. That's why I'm here. That's why this is so incredibly exciting to me, because I get to share with you how we are starting to change this narrative. We are going to be better, but we need everybody to do that. So there's just a little highlight of Idaho. So if any of you have young people in your lives that are wondering, what should I do with my life? Maybe healthcare. We would like that. Okay, and here's some statistics, not to overwhelm, but just to inform. So our suicide rate is almost 50% higher. We have 75 practicing psychiatrists in Idaho, or around 5 psychiatrists per 100,000 residents. That's incredible. At the bottom, you'll see what the most common mental health disorders are affecting Idaho. Substance abuse, bless you. Substance abuse is huge. You heard them talking earlier about alcohol addiction. Did you know that alcohol consumption increased during COVID? Now, there's a couple reasons why that they say that happened, but I can tell you, did any of you notice any alcoholic, what do they call those, liquor stores? Did they close during the pandemic? They were considered essential. So people have nothing to do. What do? They have lines going out the door of the liquor store. Alcohol consumption increases. Now, you have alcoholic consumption increasing. You have kids at home with families. You have parents not going to work. they are so stressed out because they don't know where they're going to get their next paycheck. Now, I'm saying this just so you understand where we are, so you know where we can go. Child abuse cases skyrocketed because people could not control themselves because they were so frustrated and so upset about what was happening. And then they add alcohol to the mix. They add drugs because drugs continued to be able to be found. I mean, those will never go out of circulation, no matter what kind of pandemic there is. And so we really saw this. And I was one of those people who worked through the entire pandemic and saw the change. I saw where people were so afraid to go to the hospital to get help for mental health issues that they stayed home and suffered, and it got worse and it got worse and it got worse. Then they finally said, okay, it's all right to get out. And then people started coming into the hospital, and the beds were full. And that was good because they were getting the help that they needed. But when we talk about how this has kind of changed what's happening in this world, that was an example. Okay, so we know the problems, we know the challenges, we know the needs, and we know the why. But now we have to figure out how to fix it, and that's one of those things. Don't come to me with a problem unless you have a solution. That's what my CEO always makes sure that I do. If I have an issue I want to bring up with them, I better make sure I come with a solution. If my kids don't like something, I hope they have something to tell me that would make it better for them. So how do we fix it? We be the change. And I created this campaign as part of my job, but as also as part of my heart, because I realized in my job, I'm only one person, and I feel that I could change things, but can I change it by myself? There is no way. We need all of us to do it. And so what I was thinking was, how do we change the perception of behavioral health, mental health, in our community so that we can start talking about it in a positive way of how we can help. And the way that you do that is you be the change. Now, we talked, I can't remember who it was. I think it may have been 2 speakers ago, Marvin. He talked about how we needed to come up with those solutions. We needed to talk positively, right? So I'm going to give an example, and this is just, I am grateful that we have campaigns that try to make us change, but we need to do it in a positive way. And I'll go back to education. If you have a kid running up and down the hallway, and you tell them to stop running, what are they going to do? They're going to keep running. They're going to look at you and snicker, and they're going to do it to see if they can get away with it, right? Who is she to tell me what to do? Your kids are yelling at home. They're talking too loud. Oh, you have a headache. It's been a long day. If you tell them to stop talking so loud, be quiet, they're not going to want to do that. They get turned off by that, and they get all prickly, and then it turns into a worse thing. So instead of telling the person running to stop doing something, you tell them what you want them to do. Use your walking feet, please. You reinforce positive behavior, and you tell them what you want them to do so that that is the behavior that gets recreated. So then your kid who's talking so loud, or even if it's in a grown-up, you can say, hey, could you use your indoor voice, please? Oh, thank you. That makes me so happy. You're telling them what you want. Now, we can all do that within our scope of whatever we do in this world. If we can turn it around to tell people what we want and be actionable, we can actually change behavior. Hence, be the change. I don't want to stop anything. I don't want to re-stigmatize people by saying that their mental health disorder or their diagnosis is stigmatized, because people are not want to get help. If I say, oh, stop that stigma. We don't want stigma. Because now they're realizing they're more than just their diagnosis. They're becoming the diagnosis, right? So we don't want to do that. We want to think positive. So instead of telling the world, don't say bad things and we got to stop this, let's just be positive, upbeat, and be the change. Okay, how are we going to do that? I'm going to go through this quick because, of course, I just talk forever. All right, so we have innovative ideas, authentic collaboration, and how the sustainability of behavioral healthcare management. And what that means is the financing and the delivery of healthcare services. So I'm going to go through each one of those pretty quickly because I want to end on messaging, because that is where the hope is. All right, so this one's kind of tricky. Financial management. This is how people pay for behavioral health services in our world. Self-pay, they don't have insurance, they pay for it by themselves. Grants, the behavioral health boards. Those are those regional things I was telling you about. Idaho is built into 7 regions. I'm actually one of the co-chairs of Region 4's Behavioral Health Board. And so we get to work a lot with trying to find ways that we can help advocate and make sure that there's money available for people to get behavioral health services. Private insurance, Medicare, and Medicaid. Now here's something to tell you about Medicaid. In 1965, when Medicaid was enacted, they prohibited individuals from the ages of 21 to 64 to get reimbursed or to get payment for their placement in hospitals that were considered IMDs, Institute of Mental Disease. That's what they called hospitals back then. There's other words that they used. I'm sure you know them. They didn't have a very good name. If they were a large freestanding hospital and that had more than 16 beds, you were considered an IMD, and Medicaid was not going to pay for that. They were not going to fund those people who needed to come to your hospital. If you were a big hospital like St. Luke's, who actually worked mostly on the body, because brain illness does not show up, right? You can't usually see it. They have 100, 200, 300 beds, and 16 of their beds are used for behavioral health treatment. Medicaid would take care of it because it was disguised within a hospital. Our hospital where I work, we're freestanding, 60,000 square feet, only for behavioral health. It took a long time for us to change the way people perceived it. They don't want to think about behavioral health hospitals. They don't want to think about what it's like to actually have people who have the illness that you can't see because they just want to say, that's not real. So, guess what? It took a long time, but in mid-April of 2020, and I was part of that advocacy team, an IMD waiver was passed, which meant that we could actually now bill Medicaid for serving those adults aged 21 to 64. That was an amazing day. It was awesome because guess what? A large majority of our patients are right there in that age range. So yay, right? We happy, we celebrate. That's 55 years. Facepalm. Can you believe that? 55 years, but it happened. All right, so there's a bunch of different ways that we deliver the management of care with regards to behavioral health. In-person, telehealth. Telehealth came because we had issues with being able to be in person. Individual counseling, family counseling, and group sessions. Now, these are some of the services that are available for people. We have community support group, and we've got this intensity, right? So you can see what that level is. So community support groups, outpatient therapy, intensive outpatient, day treatments. That's you go to your behavioral health hospital, you're there 5 days a week, all day, go home to sleep, come back. Inpatient acute stabilization, short-term rehabilitative services, and residential. So, here we go, check this out. What does a behavioral health hospital look like? Now, as an educator, I know that if I invoke all your senses, you'll remember more. But I do not want to show you pictures of what behavioral health hospitals used to look like or still do. I don't want that ingrained. But I want you to think about, when you're thinking about behavioral hospitals, what do you see in your mind right now? Okay, you ready to catch some balls? All right. Oh, I wonder if we're going to catch the ball for the person who's not looking. You ready? You probably do you know the question? Okay, we'll go around. It happens all the time. Fill them in. Okay, let's see. Let's go. You ready? Okay, so what does a behavioral health hospital look like? Sorry. Oh. Wasn't that good of a throw. Okay. It has lots of access to nature. Okay. That's a good, she knows. Okay, looks like a prison. Okay, extension of a hospital urgent care. Yes. No, what do you think it does? Not what do you want. But you want that. Okay. So yucky, ugly, not attractive. No access to nature. Okay, let's do 2 more. What do you think a behavioral health hospital looks like? Like a group home. Okay, a group home is very attractive. Very warm and cozy. Woo! We're getting excited with these ball. Okay. Cold, chilly, yuck. Okay, so in your minds and the way that in the way that we have been programmed, behavioral health hospitals, psychiatric facilities do not make us think, oh my gosh, they're so beautiful. They're run down, they look like jails. They don't have access to nice things. Well, let me tell you what. We have changed that for all of you. So Cottonwood Creek Behavioral Hospital, this is where I work. This is where I share the vision of what we can do to change about behavioral health. This is a 60,000 square foot freestanding facility for adolescent and adult inpatient stabilization as well as intensive outpatient and ECT. Here are some examples of what it looks like. That picture, how is it on you? Okay, over here we have a waiting room. We do have access to nature. It is enclosed by the building, not by bars. We have beautiful waiting rooms. We have beautiful group rooms, television, and bedrooms. And we are state-of-the-art in the sake of safety. Piano hinges top to bottom so nothing can be wrapped around. You can't hurt yourself. All the plumbing's inside so you can't flood your bathroom or your bedroom with water. Everything's at slopes. They're bolted down, but they're still beautiful because we believe it is incredibly important that if you're going to heal, it better be done in a nice, beautiful place. This place does not smell like a hospital, guaranteed. When I give tours, and any of you who want a tour, let me know. We are very transparent in what we do. We want to make sure you have the accessibility to know what it looks like. Outpatient, this is where we have groups 10 to 12 people, individuals at a time. And then that bottom picture is of our ECT suite, electroconvulsive therapy. And we can talk some more about that later. Great, great treatment. Okay, so messaging. We need to change the narrative. And we do that through education, through outreach, and networking. And those are the 3 things that I talk about all the time. We need to empower people to make that difference. We want to inspire, and we want to ignite that spark that's going to make it a wildfire, that's going to keep going all the way around and make sure that what comes up is positive and happy and encouraging and ready to make that difference. And that's going to equal awareness and acceptance. We have to accept the fact that there are people who have things that happen within their lives, that have trauma, that have PTSD, that we need to help. We need to become aware of it and accept it so that we can help change what is happening so that we can help those individuals. So, believe it or not, I'm going to be able to end a little bit early in case you guys have some questions. But this is what I wanted to leave you guys with. This is a quote that really, really resonated with me. And I don't usually read word for word what's on a screen. But for this, I want to tell you, this relates specifically to all of you. Because being able to be here and have this platform is amazing. And it is a life-changing event for me. So have you ever thought that if one thing hadn't happened, a whole set of things wouldn't happen either? Like dominoes, a single event, just like this one, kicked off an unstoppable series of changes that gained momentum and spun out of control, and nothing was ever the same again. Don't ever doubt that a mere second can change your life forever. And each one of you are responsible, and I know you're here because you feel like you can be that change in your own life and everybody else's, and I can guarantee you all of you have changed mine. And with that, I will say thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of this conference. Thank you so much for playing football with me, engaging, having some fun. And I will tell you one thing to look at. When you see this Be the Change and you see my name, I have 2 L's. in my last name. Willson has 2 L's. So if you email me or you look for me, it's Willson with 2 L's. It's not a typo. It's just a weird thing that happened. I have 2 L's in my last name. All right, so with that, we have just a few minutes. Is there anything before the panel that you want to ask me that I can answer really quickly? Oh, yes, sir. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That was part that I didn't have an opportunity to talk about. Okay, so the mental health epidemic runs rampant in our rural communities. The reason why, we've got hardly any services there. The population of people who live there don't really want help, right? They have grown up with a certain belief system that makes it so that if you can't see it, don't fix it, don't worry about it. It's like your arm, right? If your arm's broken, are you ever going to feel bad about going to the hospital and get it fixed? No way. But our people in our rural communities really feel like if you can't see it, there's nothing wrong. We have to buck up. We have to get this done. We have to hunker down. We got to put on our boots. That's the mentality because they've had to struggle for so long to make things work. And it just works for them, right? And so I actually created a route that I went through all of rural Idaho, talking to people and talking to the people within that community, the behavioral health population, as little as they are, and shared my story with them and how we can all work together. And I will tell you, now they're sending people our way. People are getting help. It is so amazing. It's like you share the information and now they're coming. We have adolescents and adults from Weiser, from Portneuf, from all the rural communities because we went there and engaged them and showed them that we're here to help. We're not a scary place to be. We're here to help you. So we can talk more probably about that in the panel because we'll have more time, but I hope that in a nutshell helped. So it looks to me like it is time for us to get ready for the panel discussion. I know we'll be able to talk some more about this and get more in depth because we have another hour. So I'm going to go ahead and say thank you. If I will put my microphone down, and I want to give all of you a round of applause. You guys are fantastic, but thank you for letting me be here.